Or Congressman Peter King, member of the Homeland Security Committee, and Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, who is a CIA-trained intel operative and senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research. Good evening to both of you tonight. Congressman King, let me start with you. Does this look like terror to you?
Well, it's certainly something that has to be very strongly considered. I doubt it would be a missile. I don't believe that ISIS or its affiliates have that type of weaponry. They do have man pads, but I don't think they could hit the plane at that altitude. But as far as the fact that it was such a large explosion, certainly terrorism has to be considered. That's a hotbed, that area there, for ISIS, for al-Qaeda, for Islamic militants, and since the Arab Spring, it's only gotten much worse. So to me, this has all the earmarks of something that has to be looked at as far as terrorism. It could be mechanical, but again, considering the world in which we live, considering the fact that Russia has this direct conflict with Islamic militants, right. I think it could well be. Certainly, terrorism has to be strongly considered, and as Director Clapper said, there's no reason at all to rule it out.
This is the worst aviation disaster in Russian history. Colonel, let me ask you whether you think the facts support either a hit by a surface-to-air missile or, as some are speculating, a bomb on board this aircraft.
Well, clearly there's a great deal of issues to look at. I mean, safety records. Look, the Russians have not been. I would not want to fly on a Russian plane. Not that I, distrust them. It's just they don't do the things to the standards we do. But in this case, I agree with Representative King. I think the indications are that we have to take this very seriously. This was a terror attack. Let me say three things that tell me it probably was. First, there's no surface-to-air missile that ISIS could have at this point in time which could reach 30,000 feet. It's just not in the cards. The S-300, a Russian-made system, our Patriot system could do that. These things are huge, multi-million-dollar systems which take a crew to run. ISIS is not there yet. 30,000 feet, man pads can't make it. They make it to about 15, maybe 18 max, and they fizzle out. No way. But physical evidence shows that the actual airframe, the actual compartment, shows pieces of metal fanning out like they were blown out, which tells me this may well have been, Megyn, a Lockerbie-type bombing. And we know ISIS has been very aggressive in pursuing targets in the air, in the Sinai. The Egyptians are fighting them on a daily basis. ISIS has conducted assassinations there. So I think we have to look at the old traditional route of putting a bomb on the plane, either by a suicide bomber or by a package like Lockerbie. And I think that's where this is all going, in my judgment.
Congressman King, there are reports that they've already started removing the bodies of the dead from the crash site, which can be, as crude as it sounds in a moment like this, important to the investigation. I mean, they are now evidence of a potential crime, at least a potential crime. Do you think that's a mistake, given that the fact that this may be a crime investigation, a terror investigation?
I'm not on the ground, obviously, but I think the Egyptians may have a motive in not wanting this to be terrorism, of course, because of the damage that would do to its tourism industry. I do think the Russians would very much want to find out if it's terrorism or not. So I think, there could be a conflict there, but I'm really not in a position to say, Megyn, whether or not they're removing the bodies too soon. I'm not sure who's in the ground. I'm not sure exactly how it's being done. But again, I think with Egypt, we have to have some concern that they may want to switch the emphasis away from terrorism.
Do we react to this at all, Congressman King?
I'm sorry, Megyn, what was that?
Does the United States react to this at all? What do we do? Oh,
we have to obviously use every method we have, every bit of analysis we have, because it's very important to know. Listen, if ISIS was able to blow up this plane, we know that our planes would even be more targeted. So again, and also we have to see if it was explosive, what type of explosive was used, how it was able to detect inspection. So all of that. No, we have to watch this very carefully, and it would really be opening up a new arena as far as ISIS war against the West and against civilization.
And I should point out that video that some ISIS-affiliated folks posted online of a plane blowing up was deemed to be a fake by officials. They did not believe that was this plane, that it was being used as propaganda. And that has to be a concern tonight as well, Colonel, that perhaps this was mechanical failure. It's the aircraft manufacturer who's saying there was no failure, there was no pilot error, this came from outside. But ISIS could use it nonetheless.
ISIS is going to. They're playing their audience. Megyn, as much as we can sit here as rational human beings, explain the technology is not there for them to do it, Doesn't matter. They're going to convince their audience they did it. They're going to use that to great effect. And let me say this very clearly, and I think Representative King will agree with me. This is why we have to go after ISIS now, where they're at. They are getting expeditionary. They're growing. They're recruiting. They're getting expansive. So I think this is why this matters. As a congressman said, we have to look at what we have to do to protect our airliners now, because if they got a bomb on an airplane, we need to figure out how that happened and make sure we get there ahead of them.
That picture of the 10-month-old really brings it home. Good to see you both.
All right. Thank you, Megyn. Thank you.